Nikki, thank you so much for spending this time. I know that, you know, even in this lockdown period, you've been extraordinarily busy, but I have to ask, these past few months have been, you know, an extraordinary time for all of us globally. And how has it been for you?
First of all, just thank you so much for having me. It's such an honor for me to chat with you. You know, just really, I'm very grateful.
Oh, thank you.
I have had a very mixed experience, as I think most people will have done. There's a sort of parallel universe, one that's very personal and one that is extremely global, and that we're all living in the experience of masses of people together. And of course, if there is a thing that hits the world simultaneously in a strange way and for all the wrong reasons, it does bring people together. And it's been beautiful to see where that has happened. It's been heartbreaking to see the opportunists using this time for doing what they do best, and capitalizing on people's suffering. And I think for all musicians, it's been undeniable that obviously so many industries have been hit horrifically, and so many people have lost their jobs, and people will continue to lose their jobs. But for us, it's sort of a hit on every single possible level. Obviously, our sole sense of worth as a musician is in order to communicate and send out sound into a room, and people feel a certain way from it, and you create a feeling, and that has a sort of a cycle of the passing of energy through sound and through music. And for me, I think I don't know how you felt. I have been traveling and performing and playing so much since I was probably too young to have started doing so much of that. And I was really okay personally with taking a bit of time to be still and to be in one place. And for me to be doing, you know, the washing and cooking 3 meals a day was hugely pleasurable, and I loved that part. But over the last couple of weeks, I've been playing again with orchestras and for people, and it's been quite a shocking feeling. And it's not until I returned to it, I think, did I realize how much I was missing it.
That's really interesting, and I absolutely understand what you're saying about being thrust into almost a life of routine, because I can't remember routine like it since I was at school or something, you know, where you knew exactly what you were doing from 9 to 5 and then in the evening. And as you say, I mean, someone like yourself who's just traveling constantly, dealing with the different time zones, different groups of people and so on, it's a never-ending sort of journey. But to then suddenly, as you say, just stop still and to be able to do and to observe things like cooking or cleaning and doing your own washing up and whatever is actually quite extraordinary. It's a much needed thing that we really treasure. And I suppose it's a form of listening to our own body, because, you know, as you've expressed, to then go back to playing. But I mean, I watched your just brilliant performances with the Orchestra of the Age of Enlightenment, and also the last night at the Proms, both of them. And, you know, both were actually very moving experiences. They would have been even if the hall was you know, full, completely full with the audience there. But it was extraordinary how, in a way, I found myself listening quite differently. And although I wasn't there in the hall, and I don't normally watch music via the television, but I did in this instance. And it was a very, very interesting experience. And I wondered, you know, how it really was for you all, how you rehearsed together. Did you rehearse at the Albert Hall? Did you discuss what what might happen in that performance without an audience. And funnily enough, I had just read an article about Stephen Huff, the great pianist, and he was saying that, you know, to perform to the TV cameras is one thing, to perform to an audience is a completely different sensation. To perform in a recording studio is something else again. You know, there are three very, very different kind of elements. And of course you had all of that, but yet no audience. And so I'm just, you know, trying to find out what did it feel like? How was the listening different?
Before answering that, I just want to quickly say on your first point of the observing of doing routine things like around the house, and I just think it's such a beautiful way to put it, because I did find myself acutely aware of things that should just feel somewhat normal, and in a sort of state of like analyzing the experience that I was having. And I think so many people have readdressed their relationship to fundamentally the point of our life, the point of our existence, and is routine, building a home, looking after a home, a much more localized feel. I think for so many musicians, it's almost like that's connected in some way to not an idea of failure, but we're always pushed to chase after a life that is nothing like that. And it was after a couple of weeks, something of a sort of cleansing, readdressing of the relationship to all those things. So I just loved how you said, you know, the observing of that. And I just wanted to pick up on that and elaborate on it a little bit. But I will go on to the other question.
Well, what you've just said there, interestingly, and yes, we will deal with the other part of the next question, but what you've just said has ignited the sort of observation, here we go again, of, you know, do you think that this period of being at home and doing wonderfully normal things, do you think that might impact on the balance you have between being this globe-trotting musician to just having, which I'm sure you do already, but having that control or that sort of feeling that actually I can say no, and I do like being at home, and I can perhaps think of a balance, but of course maybe you do have that already.
No, I think I have it sometimes, but there's too many times in the year when I don't. And I think there's two things. I think one, what I felt going back into doing things, I mean, we did a short tour last week, which was, it was like 5 different performances in different areas, and I did feel a renewed excitement about all of the things that would have been like, oh, this again, you know, the kind of getting in the car and driving, and then the getting ready for the concert and the whole backstage thing. And there was a renewed excitement that I think will probably last for quite a while, given how long I've not been doing it. But I do also think it's just such a peace of mind to realize that without all the things you're accustomed to, you're absolutely fine, and you're going to be fine. And that there isn't, you divorce from that rat race mentality of got to include this and got to do that. And I mean, I'm sure, I know you know that feeling, absolutely, of just like the amount of,
Yes, and I think what's really interesting though is that this whole journey that we're experiencing with COVID-19 in a way has allowed us to connect. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can go for months and months without really speaking to my fellow colleagues, you know, other than the orchestras I happen to be with at the time. But to really almost compare notes, you know, in excuse the pun, but to really talk about the situation. What does it mean by looking at a diary that is virtually empty? You know, it's got bits and pieces, but you just don't know what the landscape really is going to be like long term. And I think communally we've come together through technology in quite a different way, and it's no longer about me, and I'm pushing this or I'm promoting that or I'm, you know, it's much more, well, what does being a musician really mean in the bigger picture? And I think going back to the two performances recently on television that you did, it kind of really tapped into, my gosh, you know, what does music mean? And this is amazing. And interestingly, you know, as part of the team here, there's a wonderful group of volunteers who come in, and the proms are absolutely paramount to their whole summer existence. You know, that is almost like a medicine for them. They see it as a very important part of their lives, and not to be able to get there has created quite a big impact on them, you know, mentally. And so, yes, it was just the power of seeing the musicians come together, seeing the beautiful, beautiful playing that you gave us, and it just really ignited that core question. Well, who am I? What am I doing? Why am I doing this? What impact does it have? And everything that you stand for, and certainly now with the foundation, it's that core connection. It's about building bridges. And that's what I find so powerful with those performances.
Well, I am so touched that your reaction was visceral in that way, and to your previous question about the experience of putting together those performances, but also to what Stephen Huff said about the differences between performing for microphones, for cameras, for an audience. The singer that I shared the last night of the Proms with, Golda Schultz, she and I had quite a lengthy conversation about that, which was a very real and honest conversation. And it's not to say that all performers would agree with this. Some people just play how they play, and that is how they play, and their environment or how they are being perceived doesn't really impact what they do. I wish I was more like that, but I'm really not. I'm like hyper aware and sensitive of every change and circumstance that surrounds me. And what I then found was that to know you're playing so directly to people in that moment, but that it's all communicated through microphones and cameras, was like a very serene, calm, genuine experience. And it was actually a lot less bombardment for me. Like I find that I can get quite overwhelmed with a packed hall, knowing that it's broadcast live on radio and on television. And it's not that I'm thinking about that at all when I'm on stage, but I find that it's a lot of avenues through which you're trying to express. And fundamentally, you're trying to say most of what you're saying through sound.
Yes.
And I mean, that sounds obvious, but through how you're producing sound and what kind of sound. And the Royal Albert Hall is a huge place, and you want somebody at the back to hear you, but a mic that's, you know, half a meter away from you is picking up on every detail, even if you would whisper it. So how do you reconcile those things and do it successfully? And yeah, so I actually found the experience of knowing I was absolutely playing for people. It's not like it was a private experience that I was having, but that my communication with them was through the intimacy of cameras and mics, where, you know, everything you're doing is almost, it's magnified, because those apparatus are picking you up so intimately, much more so than an audience sitting far away. And I found it particularly for the Lark Ascending, because it's so delicate, and it's a piece that you wish to be able to create air, to create what's the word, like waves, and to be able to actually whisper. And often you just simply cannot do that if you want anybody in a hall to hear what you're doing.
Yeah,
So I could take away that whole side of concern and just whisper into the microphone.
that's amazing.